12 News. This is Newsmakers.
Welcome to Newsmakers. I'm Tim White. Vice President Kamala Harris has visited fewer than 10 states since being sworn into office. In this past week, Rhode Island was one of them. Joining Secretary of Commerce Gina Raimondo, the focus of their visit was conversations with small business owners. 12 News reporter Brandon Truitt has the details.
The 49th Vice President of the United States landing in Rhode Island just after 11 Wednesday morning. Walking off Air Force Two, Vice President Kamala Harris greeted by Rhode Island's current and former governors and other federal lawmakers. From there, they hit the road, the Vice President making a surprise stop on Providence's east side.
Very busy morning, very busy morning.
Jennifer Kandarian manages Books on the Square and says she got about a 30-minute heads up the Vice President was on the way.
She's the vice president. You don't think she's just going to pop into small businesses.
Anything good? So yeah.
The vice president buying 4 books before heading downtown. Several people lining the road to catch a glimpse of the VP. The Secret Service closing blocks of roadways. Helicopters surveying above. Snipers on nearby rooftops as Harris headed inside to talk business.
So I'm very excited to be here.
The vice president engaging in a Q&A with small business owners where she took ideas on what would help them bounce back from the impacts of the pandemic.
Can you talk about the balance between what you are doing in terms of the hard skills, what they need to do every day, and then the soft skills?
And in terms of the future demand, we know there's need for our services and communities of need.
From there, it was off to her final stop, a meeting with female business owners discussing childcare, maternal leave, and ways they hope to improve them.
That was 12 News reporter Brandon Truitt. I'm joined on Newsmakers right now by 12 News Politics Editor Ted Nesi. Ted, you were granted the only television one-on-one with the Vice President. Before we get into that conversation, which I want to play in the program here, just let folks know how that came to be. I mean, a one-on-one with a sitting Vice President for a local reporter, that's a pretty good get.
Yeah, I was glad to have the chance to talk to her. You know, it's funny. It's something you've always instilled in me, Tim, which is you just got to ask. Honestly,
that's simple sometimes.
It is. I mean, you know, once we confirmed the end of last week that she was coming, I was emailing with the White House about her visit to confirm that just for the news. And I just said, hey, you know, if she has time to talk to any local reporters while she's here, I'd love the chance to interview the Vice President. Figuring it was like a low chance, but you got to ask, you know, partly to be competitive and also just in case. And then on Saturday, I got the email from them. They said, we'd like to offer you some time with her if you're interested. I said I was indeed interested in talking to the Vice President. And then it went from there, because you were with me. People might not realize, so they're in the room. You won't see everybody, but Corey Welch, our great photographer, was with us. And then Tim was there to kind of manage getting us on TV. And you know, we had to get negative COVID tests. Right. We had to go through Secret Service clearance. We had to wear KN95 masks, all just to spend 5 minutes talking to the Vice President. It's always a big to-do if you're engaging with the White House in any way.
Well, and we'll peel back the curtain a little bit on that interview, but first, why don't we listen to Ted's interview with Vice President Kamala Harris.
Madam Vice President, good to be with you. Thanks for taking the time while you're here in Providence.
Thank you. Good to be back.
So, I love Rhode Island. I live in Rhode Island, but I also know Rhode Island's one of the smallest states. It's not a swing state in national elections. Why did you decide to make Rhode Island one of the first states you visited as Vice President?
Well, I've been to Rhode Island before, and I really do believe that Rhode Island is part of what happens, and how Rhode Island is impacted by the moment is a real measure of how the country is doing. And it was great to be here with my former colleagues, Jack Reed and Sheldon Whitehouse, and of course our great Secretary of Commerce, Gina Raimondo. And so it was a very natural decision to come back to Rhode Island.
How's the trip been?
It's been great. I love being here. Yeah. I love being here. I mean, we had such a wonderful day of, in particular, meetings with Rhode Island small business owners. And among the things that I really appreciate about Rhode Island, its economy, its local economy, is really driven by small businesses. And that's a big area of focus for me and for the President and for our American Jobs Plan, the American Families Plan. So another reason to be here in Rhode Island is to really highlight the impact of this work on small businesses.
a good segue, because I wanted to ask you about the American Jobs Plan. You were in the Senate. You know, nobody ever gets 100% of what they want to pass a bill in the United States Senate. Some of the Republicans are talking about if you split up the jobs plan, they might give bipartisan support to the more traditional infrastructure part, and then the Democrats can do what they want with the rest. Is the administration open to splitting the bill?
I'm not going to negotiate with you. But thank you for asking. But we are absolutely sincere in our desire to work in a bipartisan way. And we, as the President said in the joint session of Congress, we have been having meetings in the Oval Office, he and I, with bipartisan members of Congress, and we sincerely hope that we can find a bipartisan solution, because basically the bottom line is that so much of what we are talking about is not even bipartisan, it's nonpartisan. Supporting our small businesses, supporting the need to build back up America's infrastructure, to grow our economy, to create jobs, to make it easy for working families to actually go to work and have a good day, you know?
So let's talk about the border. President Biden has tasked you with working on the root causes of the migrant crisis. I listened to the speech you gave yesterday, and the issues you were talking about, corruption, climate change, they sound like they might take a generation to fix. How do you see that fitting into fixing the acute short-term crisis at the border?
So I have been asked by the President, and I have taken charge of what we need to do to recognize that there are the issues at the border that need to be addressed, and the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Javier Becerra, and the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas, is dealing with that. We also need to deal with the long-standing, to your point, acute issues and long-term root causes that have resulted in people migrating, leaving their home, fleeing their home. And so I'm dealing with it in the context of both the issues of poverty, food insecurity, extreme climate, which has caused drought, which has caused hurricanes that have wiped out people's homes. It's about dealing with the fact that a lot of their economy is based on their agricultural work, and they need support. And so our Secretary of Agriculture is helping me with that. Secretary Raimondo, our Secretary of Commerce, is hosting virtual trade missions to the region to see how we can give the people of that region some hope.
Do you think there's reason for hope for them? There's some deep.
I think we can give them reason for hope, and that's why I'm so focused on making sure that we do it the right way, that we bring all of the players in, which include not only the United States government, foundations, CEOs, nonprofit organizations, community-based organizations. It's going to take a whole group of people to work on, to your point, what are long-standing issues that will not be solved overnight. I'm very clear about that. If this were easy to deal with, it would have been dealt with, and it would have been over decades ago.
Last question. I saw Governor McKee pigeonholed you for a little bit, talk to you as he was coming off the runway. What did he emphasize to you as he had your ear for a few minutes?
We talked about the work that the President and I are doing, and the impact of the American Rescue Plan on Rhode Island in terms of helping people with extension of unemployment benefits, helping people with direct payments of the $1,400. We talked about the hope that I think we all have around the impact on American working families of the American Jobs Plan and the American Families Plan. So that was the conversation.
Vice President Kamala Harris, thanks for talking to 12 News.
It's good to be with you. Thank you.
Ted Nesi and Vice President Kamala Harris there, and as you mentioned, I was in the room with you for that interview, and just to give people an idea, that room was very small. It was, I'd say, 10 by 10. You and I are in there along with our photographer, Corey Welch. You can imagine, for the folks at home, the number of people that were with the Vice President, including Secret Service. And the White House brings their own television crew. So there was a camera in there, an audio person that was in there. And there was also, we've gotten a lot of questions about this, so I just want you to address it.
Yeah.
There was a young woman against the back wall in one of the camera shots that was often nodding her head to the Vice President's answers.
That's Sabrina Singh. She's a Deputy Press Secretary at the White House. She was Kamala Harris's actually press secretary on the campaign last year and works with the vice president. And that is pretty standard when you're interviewing any, even U.S. senators usually and stuff, that the press secretary will record it themselves.
I always wonder what they do with that.
I think I've heard different things. Some people say it's, if the reporter messes up the quote or something like that, they have a backup copy to show them that it wasn't that. That's less of an issue in television. Since we're airing the little answer.
Right.
Also, I've heard some folks, if they write speeches or quotes for the official, they actually like to play back how their actual boss talked in an interview to figure out kind of the language they would use when they're trying to critique it. Well, maybe to critique it, but also just if you're writing a quote from her, it's helpful to know how she said it herself once.
I see. Gotcha.
Yeah, exactly. So that's Sabrina Singh.
So you got 5 minutes there. That entire interview technically ran 5 minutes and 9 seconds. And when you have that short amount of time, you have to be very selective with your questions. How did you decide to stack them? And we should note, we over prepare for interviews like that, and so you have your list, but you stack them in order of importance.
Yeah, and you know this. I remember when you interviewed Hillary Clinton in her 2008 campaign. It's the same thing. You always get, they're not giving local reporters
a half-hour interview.
Dana Bash got to sit across from her in the vice president's office. That's not offered to the Rhode Island press corps. But it's tough because you have 5 minutes. To me, my thought is, who do we represent? Rhode Island and southeastern Massachusetts. So I knew my first question, I wanted to ask her about her trip to Rhode Island because that's what a lot of people are asking us. We're not a swing state, we're small. Why is this being prioritized?
Yeah.
So let's ask her. And then, it reminded me a little when we prepare for debates. I just tried to read as much as I could on what she'd been saying lately, what are critics saying to her, what are the big things the administration's dealing with. She had given a big speech.
Hence the border question.
I was going to say, I'd listened. She had given a big speech the morning before at the State Department conference they organized about the border crisis, which helped me to understand. Because the other thing is, you don't become the vice president without being somewhat good at public communications, right? Republican or Democrat. And so you really need a good question if you're going to try to get anything new beyond their talking points. I'm not claiming that I in any way tripped her up or got anything totally surprising, but you want to at least have really thought through exactly what you're asking with such limited amount of time.
Well, I think you got a good response out of her when she said, I'm not negotiating with you, which is always good. All right, so look, part of the reason that she was here, of course, was Secretary of Commerce Gina Raimondo is on the Biden's cabinet. Raimondo met up with reporters after the entire day. Let's take a listen real quick with her exchange with reporters.
I miss you already. It's been a month and a half. I miss Rhode Island. I love being home, and I'm so proud to be from the state. Well, first of all, I wanted her to see Rhode Island and see our entrepreneurs and our small businesses and how great Rhode Island is and our small businesses. But also, people are still struggling. We were talking to the women-owned small businesses. It's amazing to hear their stories of struggle. And it just reminds me we have a lot of work to do to be there for businesses and people as they're recovering from COVID.
Secretary of Commerce Gina Raimondo, you and I bumped into her right after we were done with the interview with VP Harris, and old habits die hard. As soon as I saw her in the hall, I said, Governor, and I corrected myself, Secretary. And we chatted. We had a chance to chat with Secretary Raimondo for a bit, and she is the same person she was we've been covering her for years, same person, but boy, the size of her staff is ridiculous
around her. It's funny to see Matt Bucci, who was one of her top advisors in Rhode Island when she was first governor, is now on her staff at Commerce, so he was with her. It was funny, though, I have to say, Tim, we were used to, Gina Raimondo was often center stage in Rhode Island, right? She was governor since 2015, even as treasurer with the pension reform, she was a major figure. And it was interesting to watch her in her home base, in her home state, and being the second banana. The cameras were on Kamala Harris, not Gina Raimondo, and all that. And it's just a funny thing to see. You can see where she is in the Washington pecking order a little bit. But again, it is striking to see. Rhode Island is a small place. We know the politicians we cover pretty well just because they're all humans and there's only 1.1 million of us in this state. And to see her in that pomp of Washington, even in Providence, it was striking to see.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, behind the scenes in the census count that saved Rhode Island a congressional seat, we're going to talk with John Marion, Executive Director of Common Cause Rhode Island. Stay with us. You're watching Newsmakers. Welcome back to Newsmakers. I'm Tim White alongside 12 News Politics Editor Ted Nesi. Our guest on the second half is the Executive Director of Common Cause Rhode Island, John Marion. John, it's good to have you back in studio for the first time in a long time. It's good to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you. Thanks for having me.
I want to talk about the census because this is a drum you have been beating for a long time. And look, I can remember 3 or 4 years ago, John, you were coming to us and saying, hey, we should really be talking about the 2020 census. And as reporters in 2017, I was like, we were like, yeah, cool.
Hold your horses.
Yeah, talk to us in a year or two at the very least. But you identified this thing as a real priority early on. Why, and how did you approach it?
Yeah, quite frankly, it was because the census came to us early as a state. Rhode Island was the only place that the census tested their methodology in 2018. And so we got sort of a sneak preview of what would happen if things went wrong. Because in 2018, when they tested the census here, they didn't do any outreach. And so we got to see what happened when the census showed up in people's mailboxes.
Explain what outreach means to people so they understand.
Yeah, so there's two kinds of outreach, right? There's the Census Bureau obviously does their own outreach, right? They send everybody an envelope saying fill this out. They might put up some billboards and stuff like that. But what we found was some other states in prior census rounds had done community-based outreach. They had funded community groups that were trusted in those communities, particularly in communities that historically were undercounted. And they gave those community groups money and said, use this money to do outreach, to talk to people about the census and why they should fill it out and what benefits it has for their community. So that's what, starting in 2018, we decided to do in Rhode Island, because we didn't think the Census Bureau's outreach alone was going to be sufficient. So there were about 64 community groups that were funded to the tune of about $700,000 to do that work.
So I got to, just real quick, I have to ask you, did that outreach save Rhode Island a congressional seat?
It's hard to tell. You have to assume so, because the states that overperformed, the top 3 overperforming states were New York, New Jersey, and Rhode Island.
And New York lost a seat, didn't
New York lost a seat, but they were supposed to lose 2.
Okay.
And so the states that didn't pay for outreach, Texas, Arizona, Florida, only gained 1 seat for the first time since the invention of air conditioning. So, the states that invested in community-based outreach did better than expected. The states that didn't invest in that outreach did worse than expected.
A brief question I want to keep, but I'm sure some viewers are wondering, why did they choose Rhode Island, and I think it was Providence County specifically, to test the census?
Yeah, so actually the acting director of the Bureau came to Rhode Island to check out the test, and I had a chance to talk to him, and he said that the demographics of Providence County, which is essentially Providence and North, reflect the demographics of the United States. The urban-rural divide in the percentage of immigrants is roughly what we see in the United States as a whole. It's a microcosm.
That's fascinating. So the seat has been kept. We don't have any of the lower or the more detailed data. We know the state level population, and therefore we know that the 2 congressmen are the 2 seats are being kept. They're not their seats, but they may win them. We'll see. But can you talk a little about what we're expecting coming forward? Because we focused so much on the congressmen that what's been lost sight of, I think, a little bit, is that this will also drive the redistricting of all 113 General Assembly seats, the 75 in the House and 38 in the Senate. Those can have huge implications for how the state is run for the next 10 years at the state level.
Yeah, so what we're going to see next is August 16th. We're going to start getting more granular data. So we might find out, is Warwick or Cranston the second biggest city? And we know that's a big rivalry there between those mayors. And but we're going to start getting data about the populations and the demographics of the populations. So we're going to see, did we hit the count the people who we were focused on, which were the people who traditionally get missed, which are young children, immigrants, and so forth. And that's who we focused on. But we know that we have 43,000 more people than we did, and that's going to force, in terms of redistricting, a lot of movement in the district lines, because the first rule of redistricting is the districts have to be almost exactly equal in population. Right. So depending on where those people are, and we don't know yet, in the state, so for instance, downtown Providence, which has a lot of new residents, we suspect, there are going to be district line shifts, and there are going to be fights, quite frankly, among the legislators and city councilors in the capital
because
city.
People just need to just so people remember, because this stuff can be so obscure. Rhode Island is not one of those independent states. This is a very political process in Rhode Island, and it's driven by the legislative leadership drawing lines to help friends and hurt enemies.
And we should point out, gerrymandering has passed constitutional muster as long as it's not based on race, which is why it's such a political process.
Yeah, and it's been practiced here for generations. And in fact, the same guy they hire time after time, Kim Grace out of Virginia, is already on contract to do it, as you've reported. And yes, it's political, and they historically sort of draw from the Speaker's district out and the Senate President's district out. And we'll see what that means politically for the General Assembly.
And you've pointed this out to me in the past, or recently, I should say. The timeline to get that done is really compressed. They usually have this, in March?
Yeah, so the redistricting data file, right? The whole point of the census is to do redistricting. That's why we do that huge exercise. That's supposed to come out in March. It's coming out in September. That's, we're losing 6 months to do the line drawing. And those need to be, locked in place June of next year. But the state has to do the redistricting, and then every city and town that has districts for city councils or school boards, they have to do their districting too. So it's really compressed, which is going to give them a chance for some funny business.
Do you have a sense of when we would expect them to start to put out maps that are proposed, and we'll hear squawking from the unhappy incumbents who got bad district lines drawn in the drafts?
Yeah, so that probably we won't see real maps until October, November.
Yep.
And last year we were getting them in the summer, or 10 years ago, excuse me. So we're going to have to be ready to react, and the community is going to need to be paying attention.
Remember Langevin and Sicily fighting over Burrowville?
It's the only time I've seen them two.
Yeah,
right,
they actually fought a bit.
It was fun to cover.
It was fun to cover. We should also mention, though, as you said, the census is for redistricting, but that data matters. As someone who covers the budget, federal money is so reliant on census data when it's allocated by population.
Yeah, so roughly a third of the state budget comes from federal funds, the vast majority of which are tied to formulas that are based on the census. So back of the envelope, calculation on those additional 43,000 people is $700 million over the next 10 years.
That's a lot. All right, shifting gears to voting. We are seeing states pass laws that critics say drastically limit voting access, including down in Florida. Will Rhode Island, in a way, feel more restrictive in 2022 after the 2020 pandemic voting rules sunset?
Yeah, yeah, we saw Florida this week. Texas is moving a bill that are trying to particularly put the clamp on the use of mail ballots, which were widespread use in 2020. Rhode Island had a bunch of temporary changes and a few permanent ones. Those temporary ones have sunsetted already. And so there is a bill that we support in a campaign called Let RI Vote. You can go to letrivote.org to find out information. And we want to make a lot of those temporary changes permanent and go further and do some things that other states have done to really increase turnout, while still having safe elections.
Did you see there were a couple municipal elections this week? There were Coventry, West Greenwich had one. I think South Kingstown had a bond referendum that went down. Did you hear any reports about how that went in a kind of post-sunsetting of the rules thing?
Yeah, well, so some of those were uncontested, so the turnout rates were in the single digits.
Oh, wow.
And I think at least two of those communities, they were uncontested elections. I haven't looked at the balance of mail ballots versus in-person voting yet, but traditionally those elections are super sleepy.
Georgia has gotten so much attention for their voting, to the point you made, Tim, about the law that they passed. And yet I can't help but keep noticing that Georgia, after that law, is still less restrictive in some ways than Rhode Island.
Yeah, so Rhode Island historically has not had very progressive voting laws, even in New England, right? So we have the longest voter registration deadline in the United States, and we only moved it there because the Supreme Court said we had to back in the 70s, because it used to be longer. And 4 out of the 6 states in New England have same-day registration. We have the longest registration deadline in the country. And so Rhode Island has been behind the times on voting for generations.
We have just about a minute left here, John, and I want to touch on this briefly. Open meetings took a very different approach during the pandemic. In a way, it was good. People who have internet access are more likely to tune in than drive down to town hall or whatever. But there were some pitfalls as well, right? Yeah. So all of a sudden, when the pandemic hit, just like many people started working from home, public bodies, city councils, town councils started meeting remotely. But with not a lot of guardrails, so to speak. And, benefits, right? We're seeing far more participation, particularly at school committee level. But some real drawbacks. Steph Machado, your colleague, tried to get a copy of the Providence City budget, $510 million. As they were voting on it, she was denied that. Had she been physically in the room, she could have walked up and asked for a copy and probably would have been given one. So we got to put some guardrails on this. All right, John, we're out of time, so we can't talk about the 2030 census. We'll have you back for that. John Marion from Common Cause, Rhode Island, thanks so much. For Ted Nesi, I'm Tim White. We'll see you next week on Newsmakers.